Hi everyone, so this is my presentation, Between Two Worlds, Barbara's Immigration Story. This is my grandmother, Anna Barbara Poldrugo. She was born December 4th, 1940 in Arsia, Yugoslavia. Her story is one of incredible transition across borders, cultures, and identities. Her story from the war-torn streets of Yugoslavia to the quiet of small-town America isn't just a part of my family history, but it's a piece of the puzzle to all of America's history and a true testament to how important immigration is. So my grandmother was born in Yugoslavia, a region at that time that was poisoned by shifting borders and political tension. After World War I, parts of Yugoslavia were annexed by Italy through treaties that stripped many people of their homeland. Under Italian rule, policies of forced Italianization took hold. Families, like my grandmother's, were made to speak a new language, adopt a foreign culture, and suppress their Slavic identity. For my grandmother, that loss of cultural belonging was extremely difficult and just the beginning of a life full of adapting. As my grandmother adapted to Italian culture and lifestyle, they began to find happiness. However, they never financially recovered from the sudden changes. They were poor before, but now it was worse than ever. My great grandmother, determined to support her family and keep things afloat while her husband served in the military, started up a sewing business, something that she was always really talented at. She became respected in the community, even mending military uniforms for Mussolini before he rose to power. But once he did, things took a dark turn. Because of their Yugoslavian roots, they were assumed to be political enemies and were forced to flee the livelihood they had built, and they did have to hide in tunnels to avoid being executed. After the war, life was safe, but again, never the same, and their financial situation never got better. So, when my grandmother met the man who would eventually become her husband and take her to the United States, it was more than a love story to her and the family. It was a lifeline. My grandmother's siblings and parents were so excited for her to begin her journey to America, they even celebrated the fact that their first grandchild would be born on US soil. But my Uncle Bill just couldn't wait. He ended up being born in France, which I know everyone had a good laugh about. Once they arrived in America, they settled in a very small town named Everett, Michigan. My grandmother worked really hard to learn English and adapt to American culture. She opened up her own sewing shop, following in her mother's footsteps, and my grandfather, after leaving military service, worked for Coca-Cola. Together, they built an incredible life. They owned beautiful property with hundreds of acres, which I've pictured below, raised 5 children together, and lived without the financial stress that had shaped so much of her early life in Europe. This is my grandmother, Barbara Ann Harrell. As she got older, she began to reclaim her culture. My dad remembers the first time he came home to find her making her signature spaghetti. It was a big deal because she had hidden that part of herself for so long, and now it was finally coming back. Unfortunately, my grandmother did pass away in 2008, surrounded by loved ones. Her obituary tries to capture how much she meant, but what you can't see or read is how much light she brought into this world, into the United States, and into my life. And this is just one out of millions of examples of why immigration, no matter where you come from, where you're going, where you started, is so essential to human growth. And finally, these are my ethical standards for reporting on immigrant stories. Number one, respect for lived experiences and cultural identity. Journalists should always approach immigrant stories with a deep respect for the complexity of individual stories and backgrounds. My own grandmother's journey was shaped by a loss of cultural identity. Number two, content over clicks. Immigration is never just about the moment someone crosses the border. It's about the beginning, the middle, and the end. What led them there? We have to acknowledge the decades of history, displacement, and the personal decision-making behind each journey. Last but not least, number three, challenge dehumanizing language and framing. Language is a power, and as journalists, we have to wield it responsibly. Be aware of stereotypes and metaphors that strip individuals of their humanity and feed certain narratives. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my grandmother's story, and I hope you took something from it. Bye.